Hi everybody, my name is Sherry. Welcome to my stamp studio. This is gonna be a kind of do a whole bunch of stuff on one card video so I can kind of end up my week here and remind you of a few different things. Obviously we are almost to the end of February. So the last day of February, a lot of things will meet their deadlines. One celebration will end for Stampin' Up! So getting all of your free things will come to an end. I have a giveaway drawing that will end. I think I'm giving away all of the stamp sets, including a used one, but I have 5 or 6, maybe 7, because I think another one's on its way, of the Scenic Garden stamps. I have registration for my upcoming mini retreat. It's going to be super fun, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. We have a Midwest demonstrator event that takes place in March, 35 Ways to Celebrate Stampin' Up! So if you're a demonstrator, you can come for Saturday, Sunday, or just Sunday. If you are not a demonstrator, but you live in the central Indiana area, we opened up just the Saturday portion. So all of that is on my website. If you get my emails, I'll do a wrap up just because there's a lot that will happen on February. And then on March 1st, new stuff will start. So this one little video will help us remind me to remind you of stuff as we go along. So first, this is the Scenic Gardening. Go watch that video. Like I said, for everybody who places an order from February 14th to the end of the month on my website goes into a drawing to win one of the sets. I have at least 5 or 6 that I will be giving away. All you have to do is place the order and then your name goes into the drawing. It will ship when I do my thank you gifts. I always ship those at the beginning of the following month. They go out by the 10th of March. So if you win one, it'll just ship with your thank you gifts. But this is also, I did a quick and easy watercolor. I'm going to do a little bit of a variation of that today. It's a very similar technique. I'm going to color it a tad bit different. This is on shimmer white, so you can see that. Then my mini retreat, we will be making 6 cards. I have 4 different ways that you can sign up to do it. It is an online virtual retreat. These are the 3 sets that I will be using. I'm going to use Best Day, Silly Goose, and Taco Fiesta. So you can sign up and get all 3 sets. There's a bargain and you get some free stuff because I pay your shipping and handling and tax. I also do it if you get 2 sets. You can pick the 2 that you want. You can just get the card kits or you can just get the video. So there's 4 different ways you can go read about it that will make 2 cards featuring each set. You can substitute them if there's a set you just don't care for. So we're going to focus on embossing paste, which I'm using on today's card. So every card will have embossing paste, and then we're going to do coloring techniques. So each of these are already posted to my channel. This is the Taco Fiesta, colored it in with blends. Here's the embossing paste on it. Here's Silly Goose. I colored it in with watercolor pencils and blends, and then I used the embossing paste to give her some feathers. This is my favorite. There's no embossing paste on it because it's just a sample card. But I colored it in with a wink of Stella and ink pads. And then it's colored on the shimmer texture paper. I can't remember what that paper is called. It's in the current mini catalog. You can see it on that video. So again, you have to sign up for that by the end of the month. And then today I'm going to use In the Country, which is Celebration, because Celebration does end and it's only one this year. So you can get free stamp sets or paper with every 50. There's free punches. There's free stencils. There's free dies. There's all kinds of stuff for free with every 50 or 100. And if you spend 200, you can get 4 or 2 or 3, however the combination of things that you want. The In the Country, this is the first day that I've used it. Look, I squeaked it right in there, and I've had it, I think, since December. We won't tell anybody. But I've had it for a long time. And in my head, I was thinking it was very similar to this. The artwork could not be any different. This is very whimsical. This one, it's funny because it says In the Country, right? This looks like you're driving down a road just down the 5 seconds from my house. This one looks like you're in Italy, so I went with Italy. So I'm going to color it in. It's not at all like the other one in my head because I hadn't used this. I thought they were similar. But I also wanted to show you just a little bit of embossing paste because there's so many ways to use it. And I know, well, for one, we're getting ready to do that demonstrator event. And so we had asked people, like, what are things that we have that as demonstrators you don't use? And the embossing paste and the gilded leaf were two of the main things that people said. I love both of them, so I'm going to use them both on this card. So I'm going to take one of our stencils, and then I just have our silicone matte, and both of these are in the catalog. I have some washi tape on this from the last time I used it. So it's just old. You can use Scotch tape if you don't have any washi. And I am just going to kind of line it up here. I'm going to leave a little bit. I'm going Old World Italy. I did get my St. Patrick's Day stuff out. I had been wanting to decorate for St. Patrick's Day because I have stuff from Ireland and I love St. Patrick's Day. I have some vintage stuff, but I had to get club out before I could do it. And then as I was doing it, I thought, why don't all the countries kind of have a holiday? I used to decorate, my husband's from Australia, and I did used to decorate in January for Australia Day. I don't do that anymore. I think, because you put up for Christmas and I'm kind of done with decorations for a little bit. But I have lots of stuff from Italy and Slovenia too. I would like to be able to decorate for that. But I think because we're getting ready to take a trip to the United Kingdom, we're not going to Ireland. But you can see this paste. This is very old, and I did put a little bit of water in it a couple of weeks ago and just kind of reactivated it. So I'm going to put this here, maybe that much. You get a feel for it. I've had this, you can tell, old label. I've had it for years. It lasts for a very long time. So you can use it just white, but I'm going to use, this is a piece of gray granite cardstock, and then I have some gray granite re-inker. And so I'm just going to add a little bit. The gray granite has is gray with a tinge of brown. And then I'm going to take a tiny bit, just a super tiny bit. I know this looks like a present, but we used it at camp. It's the gilded leaf, and I have moved my gilded leaf into a giant tub because it's easier for me to use, and I didn't want to take it down for camp, so I put it into a little gift box. I think this is from a class I did once. And I'm going to squish this all around. See, right now that looks really gray, doesn't it? And the more I stir it, the more brown it will get. You could put a whole bunch of gilded leaf. I'm going for Old World Italy. If you've been there, you know what I mean. There's just parts of places that you go there where it's all kind of ripped up and there's some gold left and some concrete and some stone and all the different layers of stuff. And there's lots of parts of Europe that are like that. So this little scene kind of has that feel to it. The other one, I didn't think about adding the leafing until after, and so I just have added it to the top. I'll add a little bit to the top of this one as well. So we just have this. I'm going to hold right here. Now, when you put the washi tape on, you don't want to go right up next to it because otherwise you're going to have a line. So you want to make sure, I always start right by the washi tape and kind of smudge it. So that line right here is more broken. See what I mean? So it's not a straight line. And I'm going to take some over here and do the same thing because I don't want that line to be straight. There we go. And then I'm just going to take all this and just kind of like you're frosting a cake. And you can go off the edge and not off some of the corners, just kind of wherever. I did a whole lot more, I guess, the first time. So if you don't have enough, just mix a little bit more. I'll just make this work for this card and then I'll show you the difference. And this time I kind of know where my thing's going to be right here. So if I don't have enough, I'll just not put some there. So once you've kind of spread it on here, you can see where I want it to have a little bit of that stucco feel for this card. You might not want that for every card. Get that on there. So I'm just going to kind of take it and literally give it that texture. just like that. Now you do want to have, especially if you do the retreat, we'll want to have some wet wipes or some wet paper towel and some water at the table with us, so you don't always have to get up and go clean your stuff. I have not cleaned this. I made the card. I went and got some water. I gave my cat some treats because they were both up on the table with me and I don't have room to film. I barely have room for my stuff. So I haven't gone to clean anything. So you'll want to take this, just wipe it off. And then when you're all done making the card, then I'll take it to the sink and wipe it off for good. But you can see the edges where it's on there. And then I'm just going to wipe this down. And then I do like for that to sit a second because I think it kind of solidifies it so it doesn't splatter everywhere. I'm going to put this back on here. You want to clean it off the first time. Just wipe it off. Now I have 2 sets of these. I don't know. I should have looked. I was going to look and then I forgot. There's one right now that's free with Celebration, one of our stencils. And I don't know that this is it. I think this one might be the one that's in the catalog. It's the one that's in the mini. But I have 2 sets. I have one that I use with the embossing paste, and then I have another that I use with ink, because no matter, even if I took this right now and you think it's super clean, you look at it the next day and it has little spots where there's still embossing paste, and it's just annoying to me when I then go to use it with ink and it has a little bump in it or something. And they're very inexpensive. So the ones I love, I don't have all of them in. I don't buy all 2 sets of all of them. And these are Pampers brand. I feel like they have a lot of soap in them. But that, I just get it. You can see this is really wet. So if you just leave it there, and that's what I did last time. And then I thought I was going to have to take it and wash it and dry it, but it was fine. It had dried enough that I was able to use it then for this. So I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to take just a little bit more gold leafing. And I know that, see, this is my prettier side, so I'm going to put my design over here. So I'm just going to take a couple of pieces and lightly put it on here. This may or may not dry. My other one was so thick it wasn't dry, so I just heat set it. But you kind of want this to stick where it's a little wet for now. You don't want too much. You don't want it to all be gold. You want that. It's been sitting here for 1,000 years, and some of it has come off. If you cover it all up, then you might as well just use the gold leafing technique. So we'll set this aside, and then we'll see if it's dry or if I need to heat it a little bit to dry it after we're done with our design. So for it, I'm going to take, I was going to reuse the other side of this, but I guess I can. I'll just be careful and not push it too hard. This is a piece of our watercolor cardstock. In the retreat, we'll use some different kinds of cardstock in case you haven't touched them and felt them, so we can mix them with the different color mediums. You don't have to have them all. You can watch me do them, and then if there's one you haven't tried and you'd like to try it, you can get the stuff and try it. You also don't have to have any particular colors because we won't use a whole lot of designer series paper. So it won't be like you have to have certain colors to match, because a lot of times when you color, especially when you're using embossing paste, like when we're done with this card, you'll see that you could mix the embossing paste with any color of refill that you wanted and then make it match what you're coloring in. So I've just inked this with my Versamark. I'm going to push here in the middle of the table where I know that I don't have that. The watercolor cardstock will let us get a lot of water, although when I was done, shimmer white I think would have been fine. I thought maybe I'd end up with a lot more water on it than I did. I'm going to use black embossing powder. I don't have my embossing tray here. But it's a little bit of a better choice than this. You want to make sure that you have everywhere. Knock off your excess. And it's really important on these fine lines that you make sure you knock off all the excess, because if you don't, extra powder is going to hide in all those little crevices. And when it melts, it's just going to be a blob. It's not going to be a really pretty design. So tap off more than you think you need to tap off and get off anything that's stuck in there, because all these pretty lines that are shading will just be a blob of black. And so even when you think you've got it, see, all that more came off. I'll do it one more time and we'll see if we get any more. Yep, even more came off. Because it's not going to come off if you did a proper job of inking it up. It's going to stick to where it's supposed to stick. But if you sometimes emboss and you think my images don't look clear and crisp, it's because you're not taking off all of the embossing powder. Maybe you think you want your image to look stark, but it's going to have the opposite effect. Now, when you heat emboss, it's better to do it in one spot. I should have got my tweezers. Do it in one spot, and as that melts, then move it on. Once you think it's melted everywhere, kind of give it a little twist around in the light to make sure that it's all melted. And then we're just going to paint it in. For this one, I am going to use my water painter. And I think this might be the medium tip. Maybe it's the small one. I'm going to use gray granite because most of this looks like stone to me. I'm going to smush your lids here. And then I'm going to start. The reason I started with granite is because I'm going to do, this is a little bit difficult to see what it is until you start adding the color. So I can see my steers. So when I first load my brush with the ink, I'm going to get the ink off while it's dark. And then here on the steers where they're lighter, I will take that part. So the shaded parts I'm going to do when it's freshly has ink on it, and then do these light parts like that. And that'll help control the shading. Now there's flowers on this part, which are very hard to see. Once you start getting the color on it, it's a whole lot easier to tell what you're working with. So what I did was I looked at the cover of the stamp set, and that made it a lot easier to start painting this in. Now over here, these are flowers right here. All this up here is just cracks in the stone. So I'm going to go over to my ink pad where I have already the lighter color of the granite and just kind of watercolor wash it out to the sides. And then we are going to come back in a minute and get some of the cracks in a different color to just kind of highlight those. So for now, we'll just get it kind of up close to it's flowers down here and cracks up there. And over here it's cracks as well. right, so that has that. Once you have that filled in, then it kind of is a lot easier to see the rest. So let's get our sky. And then I wasn't quite sure. I just wanted this to be like a little Roman thing of water. So I just put a little bit of blue in here. It could be, I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. I just went with water. And then for over here, we're going to hit the blue twice. If you saw my other video, I like to get one time where it's more watery and it gives you kind of that watercolor feel. So get a bunch of water. Kind of pull it out, and then we can go back in with a little bit more blue. And just add that real close to kind of give it a little bit of highlight right there. And then getting this right in there. So to me, it's a fountain. It's going into a little fountain way in there. I don't know exactly what it is, but you're the artist. It can be whatever you want it to be. Now we're going to get soft suede. Blue here. Get rid of that. And I'm going to use it on the door. If you see, there's a door here. And I wanted it to be a different color, and I almost went with espresso, but then I decided I didn't want it to be super highlight. And then these are stairs that kind of go up and around. Kind of made me feel like I'd been here. It's like a little bit of deja vu. And then I added just a little bit of the soft suede to the fronts of these stairs, just a tiny bit, and not to those, just to the actual stair fronts. Then we have smoky slate, and this is the fun bit. You can just do it however really you want to do it, but you want this to be kind of washed again, so it's just the watercolor wash. And I did it on the front of the building, and I kind of just brushed it mainly over where these little tears are and left the other, so it just had the cracks where it stayed mostly the gray granite. And then colors aren't in the exact order I used them in before. And then for Sahara Sand, that was what I did down here. I really wanted to put it as grass, but I thought it's probably just on the road. It's probably just on the street. So just give it a little bit of sand down here. It's nice to have so many neutral colors to work with. And then that is it for the neutrals. So now we just have to figure out what in here are flowers and what are vines. And the easiest way I thought to start was to get the pot. So there's a flower pot here, a flower pot here, and a flower pot here, which I could tell from looking at the stamp set cover, the case cover. So I went with Cajun Craze. If you still have some of our other past in colors, there's some Cajun or some flower pot colors in those as well. Once you add some of the darker greens, you'll have to be careful because if you pull them, they will bleed. So I started with this one to get a bit the most terracotta, and then I went down, and this one's kind of more of a hanging basket, so I just let it be the lightest. And then let's do the soft succulent next, because everything can be a leaf. And if it, the two colors we're gonna use after it are dark enough that they'll cover up the soft succulent if we decide we have too many leaves and not enough places to put the flowers. So you want to be careful that, like, this is a crack. This starts the flowers right here. So I literally just dotted it over where I could tell was flowers. And then I'm going to go back and add more dots of a little bit of spruce and a little bit of sorbet to add some pops of color. And you will be shocked at the end. It will look like you knew what you were doing because it's kind of a hot mess. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly what this pattern is until you get the color on it. And once the color's on, you're like, oh, that's what that is. It comes together really quickly. So with this, just kind of leave a couple of spots where you'll be able to hit some of those darker colors. So you don't have to get everywhere. And then let's go to our sorbet next. Because if you do your spruce or your darker green, and you can use a pink, you can use a purple. I recorded Card Club, and these are the colors that were on my table. And you don't want a ton of flowers. And this one right here doesn't look like it is a plant that has flowers. It more looks like a fern, so I didn't put any on it. And these I mostly put in the holes. There are definite flowers in there. You can see them once you start going. But it would take, somebody's going to have to pay super close attention to tell that there were flowers in this once it's got the color on it. So don't worry about it. Just add them in. And if you're not filming and you want to take, if you love coloring as much as I do, you might want to take the time to do it. But right now while I'm talking to you, I don't want to take the time to go back and find them all. Just kind of evenly space them. So you can already tell how it's just bringing that to life. Now I'm just going to add, with this I hardly added any, but I just wanted there to be a few places where the green kind of popped. And especially if there's any holes. And probably what would be really pretty, but it wasn't on my table, and the weekend's coming and I still have stuff I got to get done before I can get out of my office. If you add parakeet to it, it would probably pop even more. But this is very pretty, and it doesn't have to be a bright design. Really, really pretty. The embossing powder gives it that little bit of sparkle and shine. It's a card that you could easily give to a man in your life. There's nothing, because we're not going to put any ribbon on it. There's gold, but okay, let's see if this is dry. It's pretty dry. So now you're just going to rub this in here. And not all of it's going to stick. Some will stick and some will rub off, which is exactly the look that we're going for. And remember, we did put some in the paste. There we go. Well, a bonus to not having nearly as much as I used the first time is that it dried. Because this first time I put so much on it. It was so thick. And it's just, oh, look, green. I don't know. I think it's on my St. Patrick's Day video. When I use green ink, for whatever the reason, I can use all the colors, but give me some green and somehow it ends up on my hand. Like this. Now this is cut 1/4 inch smaller. Normally I do 4 by 5 1/4, so it is 5 by like 3 7/8 about, because I wanted to have a little bit more of the brown showing. I'm not going to press on it because it's dry, but it's not. I wouldn't want to press that. You remember I wanted to put this here because that's where most of the gold is. I told you this is easy. Is that straight? It's hard sometimes when you have this. And isn't this pretty? But remember, if you have this washi tape and you pull this right up to the washi tape, instead of having this rough hewn edge here, you're going to have a straight line, and you don't want that. And I'm going to take some dimensionals. You only need a couple because this is going to be hard under here in a minute. So let's add 3 maybe. And we'll go to the lowest spot over here. And this is nice, thick, hard paper. These also make cute little like watercolors. Like imagining you're walking the streets of Italy and you just bought a little watercolor. And then pop one up here. There we go. So you don't have to go to Italy and buy a watercolor. You can make one with a free stamp set that you can get as long as you spend $50 and choose it as your free one before the end of February. So you can see how much thicker this is over here. But this one, I like it better. I like how I've added it in. I also do Sculpey clay art with my daughter and we make jewelry. This is what that reminds me of. This one has more embossing paste, and because I put more of the refill, like parts of it have the brown tinge and parts of it have the gray. It's all gray granite, but because of the way I was stirring it through, some of it turned more brown. Like it almost looks soft suede, but it's only the gray granite. It's such a fun card to make. So sign up for the retreat. It will be fun. I'm going to try to incorporate as many different learning, fun, play. If you like to color and you like to experiment with things like the embossing paste, everybody who gets a mailed kit, the embossing paster, it is included in your mailed packets. So we'll have a ton of fun. I'll probably even send you a little baggie with some gilded leafing so we can try that too. Everybody have a great weekend, and I will catch you back here next week. Bye.